What's going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things. Today we're talking about nothing but Onyx Offroad. It's been a while since I've done a dedicated video of this product that I like to use here on my channel, but we do host masterclasses over on Onyx's channel, and we actually have one coming up. It's going to be next Thursday, October 12th, and I'll leave some links for that stuff in the description down below if you want to tune into something like this live. Now, with that being said, I asked you guys on Instagram, what tips and tricks can I give you for using Onyx Offroad, whether it's on your computer that I have in front of me, maybe you want to use it on a tablet like this right here if you have it mounted to your dash, or of course you can use it on your phone. I find myself using the computer and phone more than anything else, but the good thing is you can plan routes and create all kinds of data for yourself for whatever adventure you're going on, and it's going to sync across all of these devices. So no matter where you're using it, as long as you have connection, your data will sync between devices and you can kind of get the most out of using Onyx Offroad no matter what device you're actually using. So over on my phone here, I've got a lot of questions that you guys asked, and we're going to kind of dive into how I would use this in a real world situation. I'm currently in eastern Pennsylvania, and I'm going to be traveling up to Buffalo, New York, the Niagara Falls area tomorrow morning. So I'm not only going to show you guys how to use Onyx in my normal environment out west where there's a lot of public land, but now I'm going to be showing you how I'm going to do something on the East Coast to find different trails, possibly some campsites, and then some sites to see along the way. Now I'm going to kick this off by talking about the different versions of the app. If you have never tried Onyx before, you can actually download it for free on a 7-day trial and kind of follow along with what I'm doing. Or if you already have a membership, we can kind of talk about the pricing right here. So over on onyxoffroad.com, under the pricing and options here, if we scroll down a little bit, we of course have that 7-day free trial, which I talked about. This is going to work across all of your devices in the web browser like this, or on iOS and Android compatible devices. When you start to get a hang of it and you decide that you want some more features, then you can bump up to a paid subscription like the premium here. This is going to give you featured trails, unlimited saved maps, photos, waypoints, 3D maps, and a lot more. So you're getting a lot more functionality by actually signing up to use Onyx Offroad. And then my personal favorite, and what I'm going to be showing you guys today, is of course the Elite membership. This is going to give you everything that Onyx has to offer. So it'll be the same features as the premium subscription. However, you're going to have some added bonuses like property boundaries, owner names, lot info, and the Elite benefits. We'll touch on what those Elite benefits are more here in a little bit. You can see all the prices here in front of you. You have $35 for a premium membership or $100 a year for an Elite membership. However, if you use my code SCI20 at checkout, you're going to be saving 20% off for an entire year's subscription. So you can get all of the features that we're going to talk about today for pretty much the same or sometimes even less than a full tank of gas. So now let's get into the maps themselves. I'm going to kind of walk through some of the features in real time as I'm using it. I'm going to show you guys a lot of features at once and kind of how I really do trips like this. And then when it makes sense, we're going to dive into some of the questions that you guys asked me over on Instagram. So since I'm starting down in this general area on the map, I'm actually going to create a home point for me. Up in the right-hand corner, there is a little waypoint icon, and if I click on that, it's going to drop a waypoint right where my crosshairs are on the map. I'm just going to label this as home. Use the little house icon here, and there are a ton of icons that you can pick from. I'm going to label that green because that's where we're starting. And now I will click save. That way I'm kind of oriented on the map if I'm not super familiar with looking at maps all the time. So now an endpoint is going to be up here kind of near Niagara Falls. We're just going to put it, we'll just put it right on the dot of Niagara Falls. I'm going to drop another waypoint there by clicking on the top right corner. I'm going to say Falls for the name. Let's actually search this, water. Look at that waterfall icon. Label that one blue. Now I have a rough idea of the terrain that I'm going to be crossing, and you can tell that this cuts through a lot of national forest and state forest land all throughout Pennsylvania. So instead of just riding highways the whole way up, we are of course going to want to get off pavement and highways and regular roads, and we want to explore the area a little bit. Now this area right here looks pretty interesting to me because there are of course a lot of trails and even some featured trails, which you don't see often on the East Coast, but that's again why I'm doing it on the East Coast between Pennsylvania and New York. Up on the very top here, there is a filter option, and this one is going to be very important. Since I'm currently traveling in my Sprinter van, I'm going to filter the maps based off of the trails that I know this van is capable on. So of course, full width roads are going to be very important this time of year. A lot of trails get kind of closed in, so I want to be driving on full width roads. And I know the van is capable of passing some high clearance 4x4 trails too, so I will click on that, and that will kind of filter down all of my data to really only show me what I'm going to be looking for when planning this route. So this area in particular right here looks like we are in the Susquehannock State Forest. There are a few featured trails right here. To dive into this even further, if we click down here on the left-hand side, that will expand some settings, and if we click on Legend, this is going to give you what those trail codes and colors actually mean. You will notice that the blue trails are a featured dirt trail, the green trails are a full width road, the green with the hash, 4x4 high clearance, so on and so forth. When you're looking at Onyx originally, it can be very overwhelming because there's so much data in here, but with the help of using those filters and knowing what the actual color codes and everything means on the map, it really makes consuming this data a lot easier. So the blue trails are, of course, featured trails. This one happens to be right over top of a regular full width road. So let's actually click on this. And when I click on the trail, it's going to give me the featured trail data. All of the trails that you see on the map right now do have data, but the featured trails are going to give you a lot more data. So here we have the distance, the high point and low point in elevation, a difficulty rating, and a rough estimate on the time that it's going to take you to complete these trails. As I scroll down, it's going to show you what it is accessible by, and one of my favorite things is that they actually are showing you photos of what you can expect on a trail like this. So it looks like some pretty nice scenic views through like the north central area of Pennsylvania, and I know the van can definitely make it through here because this is only rated a 1 on Onyx. So this might be something that I actually want to check out. Since I'm traveling from the southeast up to the northwest, I know I'm going to want to start my route probably just off of this highway here. It looks like we're on 120. I'm going to go to the very start of the trail and drop another waypoint. Now the name of this trail is the Ridge Rambler, so I'm just going to label it that. We're going to do 4x4, and we'll label this one green as well, indicating the start. I'm going to click save, and now I've created more data for me to reference later once I'm using the app on my phone while we're driving. So it looks like I can follow this featured trail all the way up to another point on a different highway, and it's going to connect to pavement right about here. So I'm going to drop a waypoint, we'll label it 4x4, and we'll make it red because that's the end of the trail, and I'll say Ridge Ramble End. Click save. And now I have found a trail that I know my vehicle is capable of driving on. I'm avoiding a lot of pavement, which is what I like to do pretty often. So now we have a complete start to end trip with some things to do and see along the way. Now let's jump into another feature that I use pretty frequently. I have a start point and an end point for the trip in its entirety. I have a little offshoot of some trail driving. Now we're going to use Route Builder. I'm going to zoom in so I can kind of see both the start and end point of this trail that we just found. And now up in the toolbar, the very first tool, you will see Build Route. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to come over here and give it a name. Let's make this one yellow just to kind of change things up. We'll make it a heavy dotted line. And now I'm going to come to that first waypoint that I dropped. I'm going to simply click on that. And now there are two different functions with this. You have the snap to and the point draw, which you can see right here underneath your filters. I prefer the snap to because it's going to snap your route to known trails. If I just do a point draw, it's going to just draw a line straight through everything. So with the snap to feature, you'll see here as I move my cursor along this trail, it's actually going to be following where I'm going, and it's gonna kind of take the path of least resistance. So as you can see right here, it's routing me on this highway, and I don't want to do that. So I'm gonna come up here to one of the first kind of offshoots. Let's drop a point there. So that's given us about 9 miles. Now I want to continue more on this trail. We'll do another probably 9 or 10 miles. Maybe there's a point of interest there that I want to stop at. Now we're going to continue even further all the way to the end point. Now we have a total distance of 26.7 miles. Again, it shows your elevation gain and loss across this little chart right here. And as I drag my cursor across the chart, it's actually showing you where you're going to be along the route that you just built. Now I'll click save and we have created another piece of content in reference to this trip. Now if I open up my phone, I'm going to have all of that data automatically syncing over here because I am currently connected to the internet. So I could leave it at that right now. I'll navigate from my start point up to the start of the route that I just built, kind of follow the trail, have some fun off-road. And it seems very, very simple because it really is. Now once I'm over on my phone, I can actually access all of this data that I just created by clicking on the My Content tab. So on my desktop over here on the left-hand side, if I click on My Content, you can see different trips that I've created here. And if I go under all content, you will see all sorts of waypoints and water crossings and just different data that I've created after using Onyx for quite a while. Now all of the data that I just created, I can actually add them to a folder of its own and kind of filter the map even further to only show me exactly what I want to see. And that could take quite a long time. So if at any time you guys have more detailed questions about what you see me doing here, just drop those in the comments down below. So let's go back here, zoom out a little bit, see what I just created, and then we'll dive into some questions. So now we have a start point down here in the right-hand side. We're gonna be driving up into the national and state forest. We have a little bit of an offshoot. We can go see some things in the area, and then we can head our way up to Niagara Falls. So now let's see what kind of question you guys asked, and maybe I can kind of tie this into what I'm doing right now. Is it possible to make trails you have already explored? So I think the question you're asking is, can you create a route over something that you've already done? And the answer to that is, of course, yes. You're basically going to do what I just did here. Let's zoom back in on all the data that I just created. If you have ran this exact trail already, you can drop waypoints on it and you can build a route just as you saw me doing it. Maybe you ran this trail and you remember like a really high point on the trail or something that was a distinguishing feature of this trail. Another cool feature is going to be right down here in the right hand corner. You can click onto the 3D maps. I'm going to put this in satellite mode for now. And if I click and drag, I actually have 3D maps. So I can exaggerate the elevation a little bit here and you can kind of see the whole map come to life, which is pretty neat. So if you knew that you were climbing up through a valley here and you kind of came across to a high point, which looks like it's right about here on this trail, maybe you stopped here and it was a good spot for lunch. I can simply click on here, drop a waypoint. I'm going to give it a color and click save. Now you can kind of relive all of those experiences that you had out on the trail, and this is something that I do quite frequently actually. To snap this back into 2D mode, I'm just gonna go on the bottom right here and click 2D. And building routes and creating data on Onyx is something I do all of the time because there have been places that I've explored all throughout the country before I even used Onyx Offroad, and I've been using it for the past probably like 3 to almost 4 years now. So I've actually gone back and created data for campsites and waypoints that I found along the way. That way I have everything that I've ever done off-road in one singular place, which is awesome. What is the best way to discover new campsites? This question is asked quite often, and it's a little bit more difficult on the East Coast because I'm used to BLM land, National Forest land, where you can pretty much camp wherever. However, let's try to find something here along this route. So I'm gonna jump back into just the regular topo mode. It makes it a little less busy for my eyes. And you can already see that just off of this route that we created that there are actually markers for different campsites all along the route. Now, if I wanted to find something a little bit more off the beaten path, let's actually extend this route a little bit. Let's say we're coming over to the Allegheny National Forest. There is a lot of Forest Service roads all throughout here. You have markers like this one right here underneath my crosshairs, and that is a fire tower, so you can go and check out some lookout points like that. And of course you have things like this little guy right here. There is a noted camping spot here. Now if I click on it, it's actually going to tell me the name of it, it's going to give me the coordinates and some other information. And this is the type of data that's going to vary depending on where you're at. So finding campsites just based off of the data that's already baked into Onyx Offroad is pretty easy. Out west is going to be a little bit different. I personally find it even easier because there is more public land, but there are plenty of campsites all baked into the data that already exists in Onyx Offroad, so it's really not too difficult. If a trail is rated a 3 out of 10, but there is a small part that is a 6 out of 10, can you tag that for others to see? So as of right now, you cannot. However, you can create that data for yourself or to share with friends of yours who may be tackling the same trail that you did before. So this is not a great example because East Coast trails generally aren't too crazy, specifically the one that we're looking at right here. It's just a 1 out of 10. But say this is a 3 out of 10, but there is one big obstacle that you want to remember for the future, or maybe you want to notify your friends of before they go to the trail. I can take all of this data that I've created, package it up into a folder like I talked about, and send them the entire folder. That way they have everything that you've already made for them right at their fingertips on their phone, and it makes traveling a heck of a lot easier. So let's just drop another waypoint in here. Say maybe right here in the center of the trail there's going to be a big obstacle. I'm going to add a waypoint. Let's type in rocks, rock ledge. So there's a rock ledge icon here, and we're going to make this one red because it's dangerous. Click save. Now I can add that to all of the data that I've just collected, and other users are not going to be able to see that unless they are friends of yours and you're actually sharing your own data with them. Now that actually leads us right into another pretty good question that I saw here. How do you determine which trails are safe to do in your Sprinter van? So my Sprinter van is pretty dang tall, and it's a little bit more limited on its off-road capabilities compared to something like my Tacoma. And a lot of the ratings that you will see on Onyx Offroad are actually based off of the trail in its entirety. So once you're out west, that is of course where I'm more familiar with how the ratings are actually going to feel in real life as opposed to what I'm reading on Onyx. But let's check out some of these other trails here. This feature trail is rated a 3 out of 10. If I scroll down and look at some more of the information, most vehicles will have no trouble with this trail, so that one is probably a pretty safe bet. However, piggybacking off of the question that was just asked, what if there is a section that is a little bit tougher? The technical rating is actually going to kind of filter that stuff in. So a lot of times when you're out west, if there is a shelf road, that's going to be labeled higher on the technical rating, just because there are spots that can be very dangerous for different vehicles to pass through. There may only be a small section of shelf road or maybe one big obstacle to get through. That's going to bump up the rating, but overall the trail may be fairly easy. It could just be a full width kind of national forest service road most of the time. So the rating that you're reading is going to give you kind of like the average of the trail. But once you get there, it may be a little bit easier, or there may be parts that seem a little bit sketchier. It really comes down to what you are comfortable with driving, but I would say that most of these ratings are pretty dang accurate as a whole. Now for this vehicle in particular, I'm going to be comfortable on trails probably up to a 5, sometimes maybe a 6. If I know it's rated a 6 because there are some shelf roads, generally I'm going to be okay with that. However, if it is not looking like a shelf road based off of the topography that I'm watching on here, then maybe there are going to be some big obstacles. And if it's a featured trail, there's a really good chance that I'm going to be able to see photos and read information about those obstacles. So sometimes a trail that's rated a 6 is only rated a 6 because there are a lot of dangerous shelf roads, places to kind of roll off, and it's not going to be a good day. I have taken my van on trails that are rated 6, but that's not before I was in the app scouting things out, making sure that it was going to be okay. At the end of the day, if you're not comfortable with something that you come across on the trails, of course, find a way to safely turn around and maybe try it another day. But for the most part, I would say I'm comfortable with Onyx trails that are rated up to a 5 in the Sprinter, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. It really depends on where you're at in the country and what the trail actually looks like in person. Here's a good one kind of related to what we were talking about. Can you have friends or followers on Onyx to share trips or locations? This isn't really a social media app, so you're not really having like friends and followers. However, I will show you kind of how to share something. So if I go over to the My Content tab here on the left-hand side, here's a trip that I created known as Black Bear. If I click on that, it's going to show me all of the information that I've created. Since I packaged up these waypoints and this route that I created into a folder, all I have to do is click share. And now I can take this link and send it to any of my friends. For the most part, I'm going to be doing this on my phone, but you can do it through email, through the web. You have a copy link button right here. So that's going to be the best way to share information with your friends. As of right now, this is going to share as a view-only file, so they can actually import the data that you're sending them into their Onyx Offroad app, and then it will be featured under their My Content tab. So if you have friends and you have their phone numbers, you can share data like we're talking about right here. Here's a good question, and I do this quite often in my videos. You guys probably don't pick up on it that much, but when I'm driving with that POV view, you can always see Onyx Offroad kind of riding on my in-dash. Whether I'm in my Tacoma or in the Sprinter van, I'm using Onyx both in-dash and on my phone at the same time if I have a phone mount in the vehicle that I'm driving. So with the route building tool, is there a trick to help following it while driving? The trick is, and it's not even really a trick, but you simply just have it on your Android Auto or CarPlay up on your dash. So when I plug my phone in, it's going to take all of this data that I've created, whether I did it on my phone or my computer or on a tablet like this iPad. It's going to compile all of that data into your app, and then when I plug my phone in, it's going to take all of that data and it's going to show me right on my infotainment screen. So when I'm creating a route, I like to make it a really bright color, something that's going to stand out from the rest of the maps. And then as I'm driving, it's not really giving you turn-by-turn notifications, but for the most part, when you're off-road, it is very easy to follow a bright color route that you've already created. Is the offline maps data good? This is another good question. So over on the left-hand side, if I click on offline maps, this is where you're going to create an area of the map to save into your content. And again, this is going to be available across all of your devices. So let's actually create an offline map of this route that we just made. I'm going to click new offline map. And now you can see this box that it's creating. I'm going to kind of position this right about here. That way I'm capturing all of the data that I've already created. Luckily, I can fit all of my data in one little square here. If the route was a lot longer, I could kind of double these up and create multiple offline maps. And right here is where it's going to give you the information and the actual detail of how you're going to be downloading this. So if I click on the low resolution version, this is going to be less data that you're actually downloading to your device. And you're going to have a lot of your data saved, but generally I like to use the medium setting or sometimes even the high setting. You will notice on the high setting, it makes your area a lot smaller. So in this case, I would have to do multiple offline maps. This is good when you're traveling in small areas or if you don't mind having larger download files onto your device, but medium works perfect for this use case. So let's create a medium offline map. We'll call this Ridge Map. You can also add notes to this, maybe some information that you've collected along the way, whatever it may be. Now I'll click save, and you will notice that there is a green box around here now, so I know that it has actually saved the download. Before you go off into the unknown, where you may lose cell coverage, you want to make sure that whatever device you are going to be using on the trail, in my case it's going to be my cell phone, I want to go into my Content tab and make sure that I've actually downloaded this map that I've just created to my phone. Sometimes if you are downloading a very high resolution map to your phone, it's going to take a lot of data. So it's best to do this over Wi-Fi, but you want to make sure that that box around your data is green. And then if there are any changes to the map in the future, these are offline maps you can actually update in the future as well. Now with this map downloaded, I'm actually going to be not only capturing the data that I've created, but all of the other data in this area. So I can see little spurs and offshoots and basically anything inside of this green area while I'm connected to the internet right now. It's going to look almost identical while I'm offline. So offline maps are something that I use quite often, and I highly recommend doing it and updating them frequently if you are constantly traveling like I am. I'm going to kind of lump these next two questions in together. Why use Onyx Offroad over any other kind of mapping application? And what is your favorite feature of this app? So there are a lot of features to this app, and I only hit on a few of them here in this video, but the ones I've showed you are the ones that I am using most frequently. I don't know if I could say I have a favorite feature. I would say my most used feature is definitely the waypoints. I've created so many waypoints all over the country, and this is just a very small section of the country here. But in just a couple minutes, I created a route and all these waypoints, and it's really saving my adventures, not only for the future, but these are places that I haven't even explored yet. So these are plans that I'm going to be kind of executing probably tomorrow. The waypoints and all of their color coding and everything just really is satisfying once you have everything color coded and you organize all of your information into folders. I would say that the waypoints coupled with the route builder tool would probably be my favorite combination of things, but there are so many good things to talk about, like the 3D feature and the My Garage feature, which we haven't even delved into in this video. And everything just kind of works seamlessly together, which is awesome. Now, why do I prefer to use Onyx Offroad over other mapping applications? For me, it really comes down to the amount of data and features that you're getting within the app. I've used a lot of different mapping applications over the year, and when I first tried Onyx, it was maybe like 4 years ago, 4.5 years. And to be completely honest, at the time, it wasn't something that I was using a lot. I wasn't super stoked on how the features were, but as the years progressed, I've noticed that Onyx is taking a lot of feedback from people who are using the app, like myself and others out there. So over the years, they are constantly updating with more information, more features, stuff that we are kind of looking for, some features that we really want to see implemented, and then Onyx is actually doing it. There are other mapping applications out there that seem like they don't get updated very often. There's not a ton of fresh data and user-generated data. So for me, with the level of features, the color coding, the waypoints, the route building, all of the line tools, all of these features allow me to create my own content, which I can save in my folders, and I just have a plethora of campsites and trail information all across the country, not only from the stuff that Onyx already provides you, but the stuff that I created myself. So it's a really cool experience once you actually get into the swing of things and start creating your own data, and that's really why I've been using Onyx for the past like 2 years consistently, and even a little bit more before that. But the app keeps getting better, and I keep creating more and more data with all of these new features that they're rolling out. So I'm pretty much stuck with it now. I can't see any other application coming along to take me away from everything that I've already created in Onyx. But at the end of the day, it's all personal preference, and I'm just kind of sharing some tips and tricks with you guys to show you how I'm using Onyx right now. Now, I could talk in this video for another 10, 20, 30 minutes. I could talk for an hour, but we're going to be doing this in a more organic, less cut up way. You guys can ask me questions and I can answer them in real time over on the Masterclass. So again, that's going to be next Thursday, October 12th. I will leave a link for that in the description down below so you guys can sign up. It's kind of like a Zoom meeting. We're going to be kind of doing a crash course 101, talking about a lot of the stuff that we talked about here. So if you can, join us over there. If not, it will be recorded and posted over on Onyx's YouTube channel, which I will leave a link to in the description down below. I've actually created videos that live over there, which will help you guys really dive into specific features like the active fire layer and the route building and the offline maps and the in-dash. There's a ton of information, and I use this application so frequently that I think I would consider myself a subject matter expert at this point. So if you guys have any questions, join us over there, drop some comments down below, and I'll try to answer anything as best as possible. And I think that is all that I had for now. So if you guys are new to this channel, consider clicking subscribe because I make new videos every single week. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll talk to you in the next one.